Ever since the High Court order around the end of August, which told or prevented people from camping in the meadows of Uttarakhand, the entire trekking fraternity has gone into a tizzy. People are confused, they are worried if at all they can trek in Uttarakhand. That's actually not the case. And thanks to some very progressive steps taken by the Principal Chief Conservator of Forest, Mr. Jairaj, and his team, trekking is absolutely possible in Uttarakhand. We are conducting treks and the treks are running smoothly, and most of the treks can be done very easily in Uttarakhand. There are a few treks which have a little change in routes. I'll get to that in a minute. In Uttarakhand, I can talk about actually one trek which is not running. If you leave aside this one trek, every other trek is running, and I'll make it 1.5 and I'll tell you why. Rupkund is not running. That's because you cannot camp in the meadows of Rupkund because of this High Court order, and if you cannot camp in the meadows, the altitude gain between the next camp is very high for trekkers to be safe. And that's why it is not running, not because you cannot do the trek or there is a High Court order to say don't trek. So outside Rupkund, there is Quarry Pass where the route is getting settled, the alternative route is getting settled, and I expect in another 10-15 days the route to get settled. So that would also start running. Now leave aside these two treks, every other trek in Uttarakhand is running. Now I'll take the names so that viewers can understand which treks they can go for. We'll start with the Chamoli district itself. Brahmatal, a very popular winter trek, running as usual, no change. I come down to the Uttarkashi side. We have the Gomukh Tapovan trail, it's running as usual. You have the Kedartal trek, it's running as usual, no issues. You have the Daira Bugyal trek, running as usual, no issues. You have, then I come to this side, towards the western side of Uttarakhand. You have the Kedarkanta, the very popular winter trek, running as usual, no change. You have the Harkidun trek, which is running as usual. You can do the trek. Then you have the Rupin Pass trek, which starts off from that side. It's running as usual. You have the Fulara, the new great Fulara Ridge trek, that's running as usual. So no change. So most of the treks are running fine, and people need not get so worried. Some of the treks have changes in the route, and I'm going to talk about it right now. Now let's start again. Some treks which have absolutely no change. For example, Brahmatal, absolutely no change, same camps, same itinerary, everything is going to remain the same. I come down to this side towards Uttarkashi side. Gomukh Tapovan trek, you can't camp at Tapovan. But that doesn't mean you cannot go to Tapovan. So what trekkers are doing is from Bhojwasa, they go down to Tapovan, spend considerable time there, have a good look at the place, and they come back to Bhojwasa and continue the trek as usual. Then we have the Daira Bugyal trek. In that Daira Bugyal trek, you cannot camp at Daira Bugyal. But what trekkers are doing is they go all the way to the meadows, they spend a lot of time and they camp just below the meadows. So that's also almost as good as doing the trek without much of difference. Now I'll move towards the western side of Uttarakhand. Kedarkanta is running absolutely as usual as in the past through the Sankri Juraka Talab route. We are trying to even open up more routes to Kedarkanta, and if that's possible, that would be even better for trekkers. Harkidun, we are camping not at Harkidun but just before Harkidun, about 2 kilometers before Harkidun. But you're getting to see everything of Harkidun and you're going to explore every aspect of Harkidun as usual, so there's no issues. The new Fulara Ridge trek, no change in campsites, you can just camp as usual, so that's running fine. The Rupin Pass trek, absolutely no change in schedule or itinerary, that is also running as good. So that more or less covers most of the treks in our country. Trekkers are naturally worried if these treks get cancelled in the last moment, but this is very unlikely now, considering that the Principal Chief Conservator of Forest themselves are taking a lot of interest to ensure that trekking is not at all affected in Uttarakhand. We have written permissions for almost all of these treks that I talked about. I don't see any cancellations happening even coming up in the winter. My advice to trekkers would be to resume trekking in Uttarakhand. The High Court's order did create a lot of confusion, but the principal chief conservator of forest, the minister of tourism, everybody has taken very proactive steps in trying to ensure that trekking is not going to suffer. So treks are back to normal, and the next few months are excellent for trekking. October, November, then November, December, the winter treks. So they can go ahead and do those treks. We also have some excellent new Himachal winter treks which we have opened up. They can explore that as well. So this is a very good time to trek, and my advice would just go ahead with your treks.